Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to the meeting today. This is our only July council meeting. Before we start, I'd like to ask anybody speaking to address the podium and speak into the mic. State your name, and then you can give whatever it is you have to give. I'm going to ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I have one. It's from, it's dated July 9th, 2024. Item number and title 12B2, report on the RFQ results of the Municipal Drain 104 and 16A. Associated bylaw and reason for the declaration from Councillor Dirksen is the landowner is a family farm employee. So moving along, reporting out of the closed session, moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Councillor Gunson, that the council receives the closed session report regarding the proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land in Hairston, and further that the council approves the confidential direction of staff. All in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. We have some minutes of our previous meetings, moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Dirksen. The minutes of the Town of Minto, June 18th, 2024, closed session meeting, and June 18th, 2024, regular council meeting be approved. All in favor of the motion? It's carried. Thank you. I have a resolution moved by Councillor Plotnevitz, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman, that the Town of Minto Council convenes into the Committee of the Whole. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. So today we have a public meeting. It's ZBA 2024-06. It's the Teeswater Concrete at 5995 5991 third line concession 2, part lot 22. And I will act as the chair of this public meeting. And I'd like to say that if a person or persons, a public body does not make or submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Town of Minto before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Town of Minto to the Ontario Land Tribunal, and the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of the appeal before the tribunal unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So I'll ask Clerk McRobb to state the municipal address and the legal description of the property, the purpose and effect of the application, and the date notices were sent. Location.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. The property subject to the proposed amendment is located concession 2, part lot 22, with municipal address of 5991 third line in the Town of Minto. The subject property is approximately 33.2 hectares or 82 acres in size. The purpose and effect of the proposed amendment is to rezone a portion of the subject lands, approximately 12.24 hectares, to permit a ready-mix concrete plant as an accessory use to existing licensed aggregate pit. The subject lands are currently zoned extractive industrial exception, which I believe is E1-112 zone, which permits a licensed extraction pit under the Aggregate Resource Act. Additional relief may be considered at this meeting. The notices were mailed to property owners within 400 feet or 120 meters of the subject property, as well as the applicable agencies, and posted on the subject property on June 6, 2024. Reports and comments were received from Wellington County, from the Town of Minto, from Maitland Valley Conservation Authority, as well as a neighboring landowner, Jesse Brownhill. Chair Turton, and I will put it over to you, Chair Turton.
Thank you very much. So today we'll start off by asking our county planner, Jessica Rom, comments regarding the proposed amendment to the comprehensive zoning bylaw number 01-86. Welcome, Jessica.
Perfect, thank you. So good afternoon, Mayor Turton, council, staff, and members of the public. I'm Jessica Rahim, County Planning Department, and also planners for the Town of Minto. So today's statutory public meeting is for application ZBA 2024-06 for the lands located at 5991 third line in Minto. So today's meeting will provide the opportunity for council, the community, and area residents to ask questions and seek more information from the applicant. I believe the applicant and the agents are here today. And we'll also be providing an overview of the application before council. So I'm just going to do a quick overview of my application, or my report, sorry. So the subject lands are designated prime agricultural, core green lands, and green lands in the county official plan and zoned agricultural exception A-1, extractive industrial exception zone EI-112, and natural environment zone. The applicants are proposing to construct a ready mixed concrete plant within the extractive industrial zone on the subject lands.
It might be the laptop.
My laptop's too close.
I think that was me, sorry. Oh, I had my
Okay.
mic down here too close.
Okay, sorry. All right. So the applicants are proposing to construct a ready mixed concrete plant within the extractive industrial zone as an accessory use to the existing licensed aggregate operation. So my report in today's council agenda has provided the relevant information on the PPS, the growth plan, and the county official plan as it relates to this application. The applicants have also prepared a planning justification report in support of the application, as well as a letter from an engineer outlining the additional approvals required outside of any zoning approvals on the subject lands. So the subject lands are not subject to site plan approval within the town of Minto's zoning bylaw, as it's located outside of the urban boundary. However, they are required to amend their current site plan and license with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. But planning staff are also recommending that they do enter into a site plan agreement with the town of Minto, just as extra precaution there. And planning staff, in my public meeting report today, I just asked for additional information on the wash water management plan and a more detailed site plan of the site, just before bringing a bylaw at a later date. So that concludes my presentation today, and I believe Sama and the applicant will have.
Thank you, Jessica. We'll take questions and answers just a little bit later. I'm going to ask our CBO from the town of Minto, Mr. Terry Kuipers, sorry. Oh, Sama is going to talk. Pardon me, Terry. Sama, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Mayor Turton. I believe Jessica fairly covered all aspects. I just want to add that application has been circulated to relevant agencies and property owners within 400 feet radius of the subject property. The town has received comments from Minto Valley Conservation Area indicating that these lands are situated within a wetland area south of the aggregate pit along the southern property line. Minto Valley Conservation Area has noted that according to Ontario Regulation number 41-24, any development within 30 meters of the wetland must undergo review and approved by Minto Valley Conservation Area. They have no objections as the application generally conformed to the natural hazard policies of the provincial policy statements. Town of Minto staff have discussed the application and expressed no concerns with the proposal. However, Public Works has requested additional information regarding the proposed primary truck route. They required a geotechnical investigation to assess the current road structure suitability for expected truck traffic. This data will facilitate determining any required financial contribution toward necessary road upgrades. A written submission has been received from the Bramhill Daughters, the owners of the property located at 6005 Third Line, expressing concerns about noise, dust, location, size, and potential reduction in adjacent property values. If the council has any question, I will be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Sama. We'll get to the questions just a little bit later. I'm going to ask the owner, Aaron Armstrong, or planner, Ron Davidson, or the engineer, Matt Nelson.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and everybody else. My name is Ron Davidson. I'm a planning consultant, and I've been retained by Teeswater Concrete Limited to help with this application. Teeswater Concrete does not own the property just yet. They're in the process of acquiring it from the current owners. With me today is Aaron Armstrong, who represents Teeswater Concrete. He's here. He's probably not going to say anything unless there's questions that come up, and he'll try to answer those. Also, though, with me today, I think this is very important, we have Slavi and Sarah. They are noise and air quality experts from the firm RWDI. And they're going to actually say a couple words each when I'm done speaking here. I don't plan on saying a whole lot. I want to go over a few things. So first and foremost, Teeswater Concrete Limited is a family-owned ready-mix concrete supplier that has serviced southwestern Ontario for over 45 years. They have locations in Clinton, Hanover, Teeswater, and Tiverton. And they're hoping to expand its operations into Minto by purchasing this existing pit and adding a ready-mix plant. As you heard from Jessica, the pit is zoned to allow for a gravel pit. But not identified as a permitted use is a ready-mix plant. Sometimes they're permitted as of right in some zoning bylaws, and sometimes they're not. And in this case, in Minto, it's not permitted as of right, and therefore we need a zoning bylaw amendment for this to happen. As you heard, there is a pit license for the property that was approved a number of years ago, and at the same time the rezoning was approved. That pit license, again, as you heard, will need to be amended to allow for a ready-mix plant on the site. The ready-mix plant will be situated approximately right in the middle of the existing pit. Just to back up a few things about the pit itself, it's what we call a Class A license pit under the Aggregate Resources Act. It allows for, this particular license allows for extraction above the water table, so they have to maintain a 2-meter setback from the water table, and a maximum annual extraction of 150,000 tons of sand and gravel can be trucked off the site annually. We've been told that the existing operator has historically been well under the 150,000 tons of material that he's allowed to extract, and Teeswater Concrete has no intentions of changing that. They feel that the amount of material that they will be removing will be about the same. And even with the added use, Teeswater Concrete is saying that they don't expect an increase in truck traffic at all once they establish or acquire the site and begin operating the ready-mix plant. The majority of the sand and gravel required to mix the concrete will be taken right from the site. So obviously there's a major advantage there. You heard from the county planner talk about the official plan. The lands, these specific lands are designated prime agricultural on Schedule A, and that designation does allow for gravel extraction. It permits pits and quarries. And included in there, it does allow for things, other operations such as a ready-mix plant. So a proposal of this nature would conform with the agricultural policies or the prime agricultural policies of the official plan, but you'll hear more from your own county planner, presumably at the next meeting. I prepared a planning report that goes into the same detail that she likely will, but I'm not going to get into too much detail today. Just a bit about the pit itself. There's a series of established berms along the perimeter of the license pit, which provide for a buffer of the existing operations site and sounds. The forested portion of the subject property, which is located to the south, provides for an added buffer from the urban area of Palmerston. It is worth noting that a berm of at least 15 meters in height follows the easterly limit of the pit and hides all operations from the public trail. So from the location of where the ready-mix plant will be located, the rooftop of the house located about 260 meters west of the licensed area can be seen, the roof. To provide for an even more effective buffer for those neighbors, Teeswater Concrete Limited will be establishing a higher berm in that particular area, and that will be accomplished by simply shifting some of the material of the existing berm to make for a more uniform and higher screen. The existing and proposed buffering will ensure that the adjoining lands are not affected by noise, dust, odor, or lighting. I'm just about done here with my presentation. It's important to note that ready-mix plants in Ontario, and you'll hear more about this in a minute, require environmental compliance approval from the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, MECP. to ensure that the plant does not create dust and noise issues for sensitive land use. This involves the operator retaining the services of an engineering consultant to conduct site-specific testing of the plant and the ongoing monitoring and recording of operations to ensure that the plant is operating within the terms and conditions set out in the environmental approvals. It's also worth noting that Teeswater Concrete Limited has received what is called an ECO Gold certification rating from the Ready Mix Concrete Association of Ontario with regard to not only the quality produced of quality of concrete produced, but also environmental conformity. Lastly, not only do you have to make sure that the proposed rezoning conforms with the official, oh my goodness, I apologize. Is there a swear jar or something that I have to put money in? That's
No,
embarrassing.
I think, Ron, planners pay $1,000.
I'll contribute to your favorite cause. I am done here. I just want to say that a rezoning also has to conform with the provincial policy statement, and you'll hear more from your planner at your next meeting or whenever this comes back, that it does in fact conform with or is consistent with the provincial policy statement. Oh yeah, I do have one more thing. So the best location for a ready mix plant, I guess this is subject to interpretation or opinion, is typically within a licensed pit. That's where the material is, and so it cuts down on truck traffic, and there's on-site buffering right there. And so it would be, and at the same time, there's also a benefit to everybody by having that type of operation there. There's a benefit to the customer because there'll be less material being hauled around, and you'll have another concrete producer in the area. That's all I have to say. You're going to hear very briefly here from a couple of people that want to talk about noise and dust. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Ron. So we're going to hear now from the noise and dust people, or is that?
Noise and dust.
Okay.
Noise and dust. Mr. Mayor, council members, members of the public. My name is Slavik Groziev. I work for a company called RWDI. I'm a noise engineer. I'm here on behalf of Teeswater Concrete. We did send a short presentation last week. Perfect. Like Ron mentioned, I'm here just to kind of provide an overview of the noise regulations, what Teeswater is expected to do, and how the compliance process works. So if you can go to the next slide, or maybe a couple slides after. So businesses, sorry, just one slide before. Businesses like Teeswater are regulated through the Environmental Protection Act. Section 9 requires them to obtain an environmental compliance approval, as Ron mentioned. The Ministry of the Environment has about a dozen or so guideline documents. They're called NPC documents. They essentially regulate or control the noise pollution, and these documents include everything from what the word noise means, the definition of it, all the way to what limits are applicable for different industries, for different sites, whether you're in downtown Toronto or an agricultural environment. And all of these applications, and what we're going to do for Teeswater Concrete, will be sent to the Ministry of the Environment, and their engineers will review and approve. And they could ask questions if they have any questions. This is essentially what the process is like at a high level. We collect the information, we process it the way the ministry has defined it, and we let the ministry make a decision and issue an approval. Maybe the next slide, please. The way we assess the sound is essentially, we assume that all sources of sound on the property could be on at the exact same time at their maximum capacities. Sure, that could happen once in a while, but it's likely not going to happen all the time. And this is what the ministry refers to as a maximum or predictable worst case scenario. So we look at, even if you have all the trucks on site at the same time, that's likely not going to happen, but let's say it could happen. We look at that scenario and we provide the results to the ministry. Next slide, please. And we have a small example here for another site that we recently went through. Next slide. This is the Hanover site. We worked with Teeswater from the beginning, from planning stages all the way to permit, to obtaining a permit. We measured similar sources at different sites. We aggregated all of that noise information. We created what we call a noise model. Essentially what that model does, it estimates the sound impacts at nearby sensitive receptors, meaning people's houses living around the plant. And we submitted everything to the ministry. The ministry reviewed it. They had a few questions. They wanted to know how exactly it's going to work. We met up, us and the ministry in Teeswater, we met up and they issued a permit. We're going to follow the exact same process. We expect the permit to be issued fairly soon after we submit everything and the ministry has accepted the results. Next slide. And sorry, one slide over. So what we did, this is where the proposed site will be. We took all of the noise information that we have collected for the Hanover site, the information that the ministry engineers reviewed, and we assume that all of those sources of noise will be in one spot where that green X is. I'm not sure if everyone can see it, but it's essentially where the plant is supposed to go. We assume everything is going to be operating the exact same time at its maximum capacity. And you can see what the projected limit is at the nearest house and what the expected impact would be. We're predicting 43 decibels, and the limit in an agricultural environment during the daytime is 45. We have a little thermometer on the right-hand side just to show you what 45 decibels is, to give you a context. That's about a quiet library. So me talking right now, that's about 55, maybe 60 decibels through the microphone. So the projected sound levels, again, with what the ministry has already approved in the Hanover plant, will be about a conversation volume at the nearest house, maybe a little bit quieter, as you know, we don't expect all the trucks to be on at the exact same time. This is just an example. Of course, as we work through the plan, we'll refine these details. But once we have all the details, this will be submitted to the Ministry of the Environment, and their engineers would sign off on this. So we're just collecting the information, processing it. And with that, I think over to my colleague, Sarah.
Thank you, Slavi. Mr. Mayor, Council, and assorted guests, my name is Sarah Pellet. I'm the air quality scientist with RWPI. We've been working with Teeswater on this application as well as other facilities. If you can advance the next slide, please. So similar to what Slavi just explained for noise, for air quality, the Teeswater facility would be required to obtain an environmental compliance approval from the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, which I generally refer to as the ministry going forward, in order to construct and operate the site or any facility. In order to obtain this ECA, the facility must demonstrate compliance with all air quality standards. The air quality standards are stringent criteria that are set by the Ministry of the Environment and need to be complied with. So the ECA application itself is submitted to the ministry, reviewed and approved by the ministry's professional engineers. Once the facility has their ECA in place, the document itself is a legal document. It has a number of conditions that are applied to it. The ministry has the right to go to site at any time, ask to see any documentation, conduct an inspection, and to ensure that the requirements of this ECA are being followed. Next slide, please. So how does one obtain an ECA? As Slavi mentioned, you need to first develop a reasonable maximum operating scenario. So typically that's all equipment there operating simultaneously at its maximum capacity. That scenario is held constant throughout the time. Once that scenario is defined, we assess all emissions to air that are occurring from the various operations. We use a computer dispersion model to predict what the offsite concentrations are. And we compare those concentrations to the ministry's criteria. And one thing that's important to note for air quality purposes, offsite is defined at anywhere at or beyond the property line. And for facilities such as this, the worst case impacts do occur at the property line and decrease with distance as you move farther away. Once we've done our modeling, we compare to ministry criteria. Provided we're in compliance, we prepare a report. We also need to prepare what's known as a best management practices plan for fugitive dust or odor if it's applicable to the facility. And I'll get into that a little more later. And then again, that whole package gets submitted to the ministry for review and approval. Next slide, please. One more, please. So again, this is looking at an example from another Teeswater site. So again, we've developed our maximum operating scenario where we assumed all delivery, production, shipping was all occurring simultaneously at maximum daily capacity. We used conservative emission factors from sources such as the United States Environmental Protection Agency and the Ministry of the Environment itself to calculate the emissions. We entered the sources into the dispersion model, which considered 5 years of hourly meteorological data and produced results at a grid of receptors at and beyond the property line up to a distance of 5 kilometers away. So the cumulative effect was assessed with all sources operating at once, and in this case, all predicted concentrations were below the applicable air quality criteria. So that's good news. The other thing that we developed was a best management practices plan for dust. This is a document that essentially describes in detail all the potential sources of fugitive dust at the site and outlines specific steps that will be taken to control the dust from those activities. So those activities may include things like material handling or on-site traffic and roads. Controls can include things like sweeping or watering or curtailing operations if under certain adverse meteorological conditions. The MPP document includes specific requirements for inspection, monitoring, and record keeping. And the intent is that this is a living document, so that follows the Plan, Do, Check, Act process. Essentially, the document's created, it's implemented, there's checks going through to ensure that the plan controls are being effective in controlling the dust. And then, if needed, the plan can be updated to add additional controls or tweak it to ensure things are appropriate. Again, this document is also reviewed by the ministry as part of the review of the ECA application. And again, they will review and sign off on this document as well. And should the ministry show up for an inspection, the ministry will ask to see this document, ask to see the records that are required, etc. Next slide, please. So for this example facility, the ESDM report, the dispersion modeling files, and the dust management practices plan were all submitted to the ministry. As Slavi mentioned, there were some discussions between the ministry, Teeswater, and RWDI to clarify any questions the ministry may have. And then at the end of it, for this particular facility, the environmental compliance approval was issued to Teeswater for operation. Next slide, please. So, and one more. So again, for the Minto site itself, the exact same process would need to be followed. So in order to obtain that ECA, we would be required to demonstrate compliance with the ministry set air quality standards. The expectation of the Minto plant will be slightly more enclosed than the Hanover site, so we expect dust levels to be lower. And again, the approach taken would be similar to what we just did for Hanover, but would take into account the specific site plans and operational plans that for this Minto facility. And that is the end. So thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Sarah. So Ron, your group is finished? Okay, so I'm now going to open it up to any persons wishing to speak to the application can come to the podium. State your name and questions or comments. Okay, seeing none, then I'm going to ask council questions. You want to direct, go ahead, Councillor Potnovitz. Do you have someone you want to direct it to?
Well, just the County of Wellington report. It was mentioned that it wouldn't be subject to a site plan approval because it's outside the urban boundaries. But in the report, it states in here that they were recommending a site plan approval process where staff would have the opportunity to further address matters such as berming and landscaping. So is a site plan going to be required, or is it, or can we even ask for that?
I can field that question. So our site plan control bylaw does exempt rural properties, but it can be implemented through site-specific provisions within the zoning bylaw. So what Jessica's proposing is adding that as one of the site-specific requirements for the zoning.
Okay.
Councillor Elliott, go ahead.
Yeah, just a couple of things. If you need all, I'll probably get Ron.
You want to speak in your mic, please? Ron?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ron, question would be, if you meet all the criteria, the zoning's all set, you're ready to build, how long do you expect before you would build that? How many employees would you have after the fact?
Welcome, Aaron.
Thank you, Mayor and councilors. Appreciate your time. It's a great question, Ron. Depends on the economic future kind of the next few months, but our desire is that we selected this site and we do have a desire to get moving, but it is subject to how the economy responds. Number of employees, I mean, we would probably start with anywhere from kind of 5 to 8 trucks and a plant manager and potentially a mechanic and a loader operator. So you're looking anywhere from 10 to 12 employees at the site at one time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Potnovitz, go ahead.
Just one further question, maybe for the gentleman from Teeswater. Just the hours of operation. You can just maybe give us an idea of that.
Yeah, the ready-mix concrete industry is it's changes quite a bit. When our customers need concrete, however, we try to maintain our operating hours with what the local bylaws are. So typically in town, they're different than what they are out in the pit, but we wouldn't be going outside of the current pit operating hours that's on Mr. Darcy's site plan. So that'd be Monday to Friday, and then Saturdays when needed as well. But again, I think that the whole, I guess, summary would be that there's currently crushing and aggregate processing going on with a lot less limitations, as you heard from our consultants, and the yearly rigor that we need to go through to stay in compliance. So I think that I'd encourage anyone that has any questions or would like to see one of our facilities and come and see and kind of have a good understanding of how we are good neighbors in the community.
Deputy Mayor Anderson, go ahead.
Hi. I don't know who wants to answer this, but I suspect the person from Teeswater Concrete. Any idea of the volume of trucks on the road? And I know there was a comment about a report or a study on the damage to the road, because roads are always an issue, and I'm thinking there's going to be a fair number of pretty heavy trucks on this section of road with this plan.
Yeah. Again, subject to kind of the economic needs. Sorry to be kind of a weak answer to that, but it depends on what the demand is in the area. Obviously, the municipality is growing and there's lots going on. We're going to have more demand for our trucks. However, I would say that the pit license is permitted for 150,000 tons annually, which is a lot of traffic. And so that's what that approval was set for that pit. And we would be well under even coming close to that.
That's including their current business with the aggregates as well as the concrete would still be under the limit?
Yes.
Thank you.
So you'll have a chance to comment in a moment. Other questions? Yeah, so I have a couple questions. Aaron, likely you're the person that, I mean, there is a pile of restrictions on this pit by the MECP or the other governing body that you're talking about. My question to you is, say we were doing this 10 years ago, are the restrictions the same or have they changed because of all the other issues that we have in reference to aggregate in the province?
Yeah, it's a lot stricter now than it's ever been. I think getting an aggregate license is more challenging now than it ever has been, and there's reasons for that. And I would say similarly, I think you guys got a bit of a snapshot into the rigor that is needed for us to meet requirements before we can. We're very, there's a lot of red tape with our industry, and there's high standards that we need to meet, and that's not a bad thing. That means that we're doing what we need to do to be good neighbors, and so we're not opposed to the rigor that we need to go through.
So over the last 10 years, I mean, you have came, so the aggregate business has came a long way in rigorous restrictions on pits. And like you said, that's a good thing. That's one of the good things I think we have going for us here. It's an established pit. We talked about the big berm on the east side from the road. That berm is, what did you say, 15 meters high? Is that what you said, Ron? Yep. I've seen it. So, I mean, the restriction, I'm not sure exactly when this pit went in, but the restriction back then was to put this, I mean, I don't imagine whoever got the license for the pit, just put that berm in on the goodness of their heart. I mean, that berm is there for a reason, and likely noise and dust was a big issue back then.
Yeah.
Just assuming that.
Yeah.
So I just wondered, what would a day look like at the pit? Okay, so you've got the license, the ready mix plant's up. You'd start at 7 in the morning, trucks would start coming. So can you just give us an indication on what it would look like?
Sure. So it would be kind of similar to any other kind of contractor's yard where you'd hear heavy machinery or trucks or any of the factories that you have on. Trucks would fire up, and the staff would be doing their circle checks, and then the plant manager would open up the plant, and that sounds more kind of significant than it is. It's a lot of electronics now, and essentially you'd have your orders for the day, and you'd start batching concrete, which would mean that the plant would distribute concrete and aggregate, water and cement into the truck. The truck is the actual mixing portion of the ready-mix concrete, and then you would leave the gate and go to the job site. You might be there 15 minutes, you might be there an hour, you might be traveling half an hour. So that's why truck turnaround times, how many trucks, it's a hard question to answer. But that would kind of go on for the day until the orders are complete. And then you'd have aggregate trucks kind of looking after that. There's specialty materials, there's things that would go on in the pit. That's a high level overview for you, Mayor.
So I think in a report, one of the reports I read about, so when the trucks come back, after they leave your site with a load of ready mix on, they go to into Palmerston to dump their load. Load's completely dumped, and they come back, load and go again. What happens if the load's somebody orders 10 yard and they only use 8? How does that work?
So we return to concrete. We put them into essentially block forms. So you'll see retaining walls built out of these, or the municipality or different people will reach out. Farmers use them a lot for manure storage walls. And so the returned concrete is put into essentially different sizes, different styles of blocks. And then there are at times when the concrete is not, it's either been in the truck too long, or it's too watered down after they had to wash the truck out. So it's not, call it safe enough to go in a block. Then you would discharge it into our truck washout. And then at the appropriate time, you would reprocess that aggregate and reuse it for roads, or in time, recycled aggregates and recycled concrete will be approved to be reused in concrete for the more environmental friendly, but that's those approvals are ongoing right now.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead, Councillor Dirksen.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. I'm curious, so we have the gravel pit there now. I'm wondering, and this might not be a question we could get answered today, but have there been any complaints about noise or dust from neighbors on Third Line about the gravel pit that's there now? And then I guess looking across Minto, the township area, we have another ready mix plant over on 12th Line. We have a gravel pit on 12th Line. We have a gravel pit on Pike Lake Road. I'm just wondering, is that something that we field a lot of calls in the office for? I guess I'm particularly interested, though, in the gravel pit, obviously, on Third Line.
So
Terry, could you answer that, please?
Absolutely. So to my knowledge, the town has never received a single complaint about the gravel pit on the Third Line. Years ago, we did have complaints about the one on the 12th Line, and it had to do with the speed of the trucks going down the road. The predominant truck path for this is heading out to White's Road, so there's not a whole lot of time to get up to probably even highway speed.
Okay.
Thank you.
One more question here, and say I did have a complaint. So you weren't maintaining your ready mix and site, and there was a bunch of bearings or something rattling. What is my complaint process being a neighbor? Do I phone the pit? Do I phone, is it MECP or how's that work?
Yeah, there's different avenues you can do it. I mean, we're a local ready mix company. Anytime in the past there's ever been something, we just want to address it, know about it, and then make it right. That's our duty as neighbors. However, if that's not satisfactory, then there are reporting options that you can do, and you can. We have a best management practice plan that Slavy and Sarah talked about, and there's reporting processes that way. But then you can continue on to Concrete Ontario. If we're not meeting the guidelines, you can reach out to them. You can reach out to the Ministry of Environment. So yeah, multiple options.
You don't like them? You don't like
don't like
options?
complaints. No. And we've been operating in Hanover for over a year, and similar kind of scenario, except it's not in a pit. It's actually in the town boundary, and we've received no complaints thus far.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Jesse, you had a question. Would you approach the mic, please? So if you have a question, please approach the mic. Thank you. Yep.
Just a couple of questions. So the berm that runs to the east side of the property, it doesn't extend that far back. Like it might extend, I believe, behind the shop, but I think if you stand in the backyard at 6005, you can see straight across. So there needs to be a tree line or a berm created in that area.
Sorry, Jess, pardon me, but what's 6005?
That's the fire number.
Okay, yours.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I didn't get your name, so
Sorry, it's Jesse Bramhill.
Okay.
And then the truck traffic that everybody was talking about. So when Darcy's have had it for the last 3 years, now obviously I didn't live there 3 years ago, but I am there now. So the truck traffic, like how many trucks go in and out for Darcy today, or say over the past year, comparable to what it's going to be with the ready mix plant? And also there's, from what I've heard, 2 years of material left in that pit. So if there's, say, 8 trucks at that location, how many runs do they do a day? How many times are they coming and going, reloading? How many trucks is it going to take to haul in the gravel and material that you require? Sounds like everything is being trucked. This is just the land.
Terry, are you keeping notes? Annaline, who's keeping the questions so we can answer them? Yes. Okay, Jess? Thank you very much.
I think everything else is covered with the letter.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
thank you.
So we're going to get back to Jess on those questions, answers, or Aaron, is there something that you can answer, or you're likely the best person to answer it, especially the runs coming and going, and I know it's an economic thing. Another thing is, depends if it's going from the pit to the other end of Teeswater or into Palmerston or whatever. Have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't. If I came up here and said that I do, I'd be not being truthful. Industry is good. We need industry. We need building. There's a housing shortage in Ontario. So we want there to be lots of trips. And we just feel like that's the best spot for those trips to happen.
Okay, thank you. So if there's some questions that we haven't answered, Jessica, you're going to. Amy, you next?
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Heinmiller. I'm the other neighbor. So I just didn't know what protection I have. You said you want from the trail, but no one's asked permission on my property to see what I see from the house we got there. So we severed off a portion from my father-in-law's property to build our home there. And really, I don't want another ready-mix plant. Like, nobody's came over and asked permission to go on my property to see about how we're protected too with my family. So what protection we're gonna have there, where we live in our home. Also, when asked about the hours of operation, it was the days of the week. I'd like to know the hours that are gonna be worked there. I'll see if I can think of anything else, but those were two big ones.
Thank you, Amy. Thoughts on that, anyone? Or is that, that'll just go on the list? Jess, Aaron? Thank you.
I can answer the hours of operation. I mean, we unfortunately, we don't get to set those. So we have to, it's subject to what the ministry allows us to work. So I can't give you those hours. It'll be what Slavy and Sarah end up getting back after the report from the ministry.
Okay. So that's some of your questions. The answers will come. Amy, other questions and comments? Wendy, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Wendy Ross and I live a little bit down the road. I think it was about 10 years ago this pit was approved. And at that time, we were told that it would be, once it was empty, it had to be
Rehabilitated.
put back into farmland.
Yeah.
And so here we were waiting. I guess we should have been calling in about the trucks. I don't know. You want to be a good citizen and not be, complaining all the time. But there is a lot of trucks. It has been better lately, I would say. There isn't as many. Would you agree? It's not as busy, which is great. But we have been waiting for our road to get fixed because these trucks, our road is like this. It's a mess, and there's pieces of pavement. Like somebody will go down the road and they'll hit these potholes and there's pavement flying all over. I know they keep trying to patch it up, and we're going, yeah, we're going to get a patchwork here because we have to wait for this pit to be emptied so that it can be returned back to its original state, and then we'll get a new road. Well, guess what? We've been waiting and it's just ongoing. I don't know. I'm not happy, but.
Okay, Wendy, thank you. Can somebody give a report on the road, or is that's something we're going to check into?
So in discussion with our roads manager, the road is definitely scheduled to be replaced. End to end, it's going to be redone. One of the key factors that we're waiting for is that's one of the detour routes anticipated for the big dig in Palmerston. So the thought around the table was not replace the road that's going to be beat up with additional traffic due to the detour, wait until that's done, and then redo that road.
Anticipation for the big dig, the dates, Terry? Or whoever? Is that 26?
26, 27 is kind of the game plan. So it would
Starting
be
26th, finishing the 27th?
fingers crossed, yep. And then it would be the following year that it would be redone.
So when you talk about one of the major detour routes down the second and third line,
So that's anticipated
Yeah.
at this time. It's not, nothing set in stone as to what the actual routes will be.
okay? Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, sure, go ahead, Jess. Yeah, don't be shy.
I just wanted to question, like,
Jess, would you just state your name, please?
sorry, my name's Jessie. Or, yes, Bramhill, the neighbor. I live right at the walking trail, and if you notice, the road comes up to a hill and crests right at the trail where it crosses the road. Another concern I have with the truck traffic is many people from the town of Minto drive out to that side road, park on the side of the road, they let their dogs out, their kids out, and they go walking. How are you going to control and keep people safe? I know there's a little tiny parking area there now. The odd person might use it, but the majority still park on the road. So it'll be something to consider.
Okay, thank you for that. Health and safety is certainly paramount in this whole situation. Okay, no other questions? Going once? Other questions from council, anybody? Any rebuttal from Aaron, Ron, or any response to anything? Okay, so I'm going to state the following, that if you wish to be notified of the decision of the Council of the Town of Minto in respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application, you must make a written request to the clerk of the Town of Minto at 5941 Highway 89, Hairston, NOG 1ZO, or by email at anleen@town.minto.on.ca. Might be a good time to make sure everybody has signed in from around that area, or if you haven't, you don't mind doing that. And if there's no further comments, okay, I'm going to adjourn the public meeting. So thank you very much. And I'm going to say right now that if anybody from this public meeting wants to leave, we'll take a moment, take a break, or if you want to stay for the rest of the council meeting, that's fine as well. I don't believe that there's any decisions being made today, Terry.
No, that's correct. This public meeting is just to gather information, and then staff will return with subsequent reports and a draft bylaw at a later date.
Thank you very much. Okay. Go on in, Andy. So we're going to move along to delegations. Today we have in our council chambers members from the Grove Youth Wellness Hub. We have Tiffany Fagan and Jeff Hoffman. So welcome, you folks. And you can, sure, when you're finished, people will know a lot more about the Wellness Hub in Palmerston, Ontario. So thank you for coming, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Turton, council, staff, community. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. The goal of the Grove is to build a more effective health and social service system through integration and collaboration. My name is Jeff Hoffman. I'm the executive director here at the Grove. And this integration and collaboration is designed to better meet the needs of youth right here in Minto and across Wellington County and through the city of Guelph. We do this work by partnering with over 40 different agencies, organizations, and partners. And the town of Minto is one of those key partners. We're truly thankful for your leadership you're having a real impact. The Grove sites are extremely busy. Year over year, our youth visits are up. The number of young people accessing wellness services has increased. And more youth who typically wouldn't be accessing services are receiving the help they need. Our early evidence shows that when youth can drop into a safer and braver space where they are comfortable, where they know that they are in the driver's seat, and that if or when they need more specific or intense support, they will reach out. Our data, which we're going to share with you today, shows that access to these supports is leading to significant reductions in anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, psychological distress, and substance use in youth, including local youth right here in Minto. This innovative model of care works. Our team sees it daily. Our data, the data we're going to share with you supports what we are seeing. And Tiffany here is our team leader at Hub in Palmerston. Tiff's going to walk you through the data that we're seeing here and what's happening on a daily basis at this amazing place here, just down on Main Street in Palmerston, where we see close to 70 to 100 young people every single day. So Tiff, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm Tiffany Fagan. I'm the site lead here at our Palmerston site. So do you mind going to the next slide, please? Thanks. So this is sort of a basis of what our model is for those of you who aren't familiar with it, but we're a one-stop shop for wellness for our youth in our community. So youth age 12 to 26 can come in, they can grab a snack, they can get some tutoring help, they can get some mental health support, and it's all free of charge and it's all at their choices. So it's available for them. So here's some numbers that we're seeing in general. So this past year, we saw over 32,000 visits at our hub sites. So that's pretty incredible when we think about how many youth there are and maybe how many aren't getting there, but 32,000 are. 25,000 of them, 26,000 of them are just dropping in. So they're just hanging out, they're coming for a visit. We have 4,000 who are coming in for wellness support. So that could be mental health, that could be just a check-in, that could be some housing, some food supports, that kind of thing. We do a lot of tutoring, so there's also 1,800 in there for some employment and education supports. And then we do have a clinician on site as well, so youth can come in and have up to 5 therapy sessions on whatever they might need at that time. All right, this is the coolest stuff. So we at Palmerston are the busiest site. It is incredible. We see 70 to 100 youth every single day. And so we're seeing them at lunch, we're feeding them lunches. Mac and cheese is our hot hit right now, and we tend to feed about 50 of them at minimum over lunch. That's a couple big crock pots, if you can imagine. And as a bigger picture of all of this is that of all the WIHU sites in the province, they are seeing 110,000 visits total in the province. We're seeing 32,000 of those at our sites alone. So that's pretty incredible. Of that, 30% of the Ontario visits are the Grove, and that 12% of the entire province are coming to Palmerston. All right. This is our clinical data. I may let Jeff jump in on some of this stuff here with us. So you'll see the steady increase in our clinical support, which is always ongoing, but I'll let Jeff give our
Thanks,
data
Tiff.
here.
So year over year, we saw about 9% more youth. So we saw about 32,000, we had 32,000 visits this past year across our sites, up from about 28,000 the previous year. It's about a 9% growth. But the number of youth who are accessing service has increased by over 30%. And so not only are we seeing more young people, but more young people within those spaces are feeling comfortable, have built that trust and rapport with our awesome team, and are accessing the services and support that they need, right? And you can see that the data here shows, this is just our data from our most recent fiscal year. And you can see the second half of the year with some real increases in growth. And that happens because young people are in the space, they connect with our team, you build some trust, you build rapport, you get a sense of what's available for you. And then if you need access supports, you can see those supports. You can see that real growth we see year over year that's happening within our spaces here. Across all of our sites across the Grove, the 6 that are open right now, but especially here in Palmerston, at the site in Palmerston.
This slide always surprises me. We ask youth when they come in, where would you go if you didn't have us? Where would you come for support? And the majority of them are saying nowhere or I have no idea. And so that means that we're meeting a need somewhere for those youth who didn't have a place to go or didn't know how to access that support. And that's pretty significant when we look at those numbers. And as Jeff was saying, we spend our time in there building that rapport.
to get them to comfortable to access that. So no youth is walking in and saying like, I think I need some therapy today, right? They're walking in and they're kind of saying like, oh, I did poorly on an exam, I'm struggling at home, I'm starting to sense things. That's our team. That's their job to really source that out and figure out what's going on for them and how do we get them to the right step, because they don't know what that step is. That's what we're there for, is to help them get there. So some of the common trends that we're seeing, and you'll probably hear this in the community in general, lots of low mood and anxiety for our young people. So lots of stuff going on, whether that's post-pandemic or just in general, that's really common right now. Food and housing insecurity, I think we're hearing that provincially, that is, you know, pretty major for our folks. Some substance use concerns, and then that suicidal ideation and attempts is always present for our little people. And so how are we helping them to find those right supports before, you know, we need them, they need themselves? And then improve wellness.
Behind the scenes, there's a whole team that works around collecting data and really measuring the impact of the care that we're providing young people. And we're able to measure when you enter our wellness stream, the difference from how you're feeling from your very first visit to your most recent visit through a series of surveys that youth fill out at each of their visits here. And through that data, we're able to pick up on changes that young people are experiencing through their time with us. And so what's on screen here is the change that young people have shared with us around their wellness, thoughts around suicidal ideation, around anxiety, around depression. And what you can see here across those data is reductions in all those key areas here. You know, and that's from their very first visit with us to their most recent visit. For some people, that might be their second visit. This is just a point in time when this data was collected. Might be their first, might be their second visit, might be their 10th visit with us. But what we can see, what can we tell here is, and the story is this, that we are seeing more young people access into space, more young people accessing services, young people who wouldn't traditionally be accessing supports, receiving support today, who need support today, and are benefiting from that support. And that is happening here for local youth right here in your community every single day. Thanks to this awesome team that Tiff is leading here. So that's really what the data shows us this. It doesn't surprise us because our team sees it too on a daily basis. But the data is it's really awesome to have that data back up what we see around young people's wellness on a daily basis. So thank you. Next slide, please.
All right, here's just some data on our fiscal year. So what are our folks presenting with? So you'll notice the top is always that mental health. And secondly is relationships. And I always think of relationships for our young people in such a broad spectrum. That can be school, that can be family, that can be peers, and that's so impactful of their well-being going forward. So although that's what they've categorized it as, it probably spreads across this raft of different ideas of what they might be struggling with in there. But certainly that mental health and relationships. And you'll see an increase into this year with that housing. So as we talked about before, we're seeing more and more young people who in those early transitional aged youth are struggling with food insecurity and that housing support and how to obtain it and manage it. All right, so really quick little updates. These are sort of our key things this year. So we've had such an increase in our skills and well-being attendance. So this can be things like life skills, it can be our programming, it could be tutoring, any of those types of things. And then similarly, that increase, as Jeff was saying about the wellness support, so the 30% increase in individuals accessing our clinical support. And then we've had a beautiful increase in our community partnerships as well, which I'll talk about on our next slide. All right, so a couple of our key ones, and I'm gonna try to summarize all these. One I'm super exciting is our sub-hubs right now. So we have this beautiful relationship with the Township of Minto and Mapleton, and within that, we've been able to create these sub-hubs. So during the school year, we see the majority of our youth who are attending high school and are coming over from the high school. In the summer, they're in their home communities and they can't get to us. And so how do we get to them? So we've created these sub-hubs. So we are in Drayton at the Arena, Tuesday afternoons from 1 to 4. We have our wellness supports as well as drop-in. On Wednesdays, we're at Harrison at the old train station, again from 1 to 4. And on Thursdays, we're in Mount Forest at the Empowerment Studios, again from 1 to 4, to see if we can reach those youth that can get to us, that we can then get to them. So that's been pretty exciting. We also do things, we're at the day camps, we're doing some wellness programming with our day camps. We did some emotional regulation programming with the after school programs. We've done some tutoring and emotional regulation support in some of our grade 6 classrooms. And then obviously our continued support right at our hub, downtown Palmerston. One of the other big ones is our new relationship with the Minto Mapleton Family Health Team, and we actually have primary care in our hub now. So we have a nurse practitioner twice a month who can support our young people on site. it's absolutely amazing. And then as well within that relationship, we've been able to look at sort of what are the needs in the community. And one of the things that we noticed that everyone was seeing was this increase in anxiety. So whether it's the school, the family health team, and us, so instead of individually serving these youth, we partnered and created a program and ran a 6-week program for individuals around anxiety. And we had a beautiful turnout and great success in them moving forward. And then lastly is our school collaboration, which always continues to just flourish. We've had a beautiful sort of evolution with Norwell, I think, and we've been able to really create some good things happening there with the high school. We can go back and forth. We have some youth who are seeing our clinician, who might be seeing their clinician, and working back and forth collaboratively. And then we also have been doing work with Palmerston Public, and we've been in there doing some anxiety groups, getting them ready for grade 9. So that end of grade 8 was pretty stressful. So how do we get them prepped and ready for grade 9? So we've been in there doing that. And as I said, Maryborough, we're also in there Wednesdays to do some tutoring and emotional reg support. Okay, this is my favorite thing to talk about, though, is success stories. So I could talk about these all days. We have so many great success stories, but I'll try to touch on a few here of things that have really gone well. So we had a youth that was attending our hub and was struggling to attend school, was experiencing some high suicidal ideation. And with some conversation and report from our wellness team, we were able to help that young person get reconnected to the school and find some avenues to be able to return to school and obtain their credits. So working with the school counselor, working with the principal, working with the parent, we were able to do a bit of a wraparound and help them get back there. Because there's always something that's holding them back. It's not necessarily I don't like school or I don't want to be there, but what's that barrier for them and trying to work through that for them. One of our lovely ones, we have MIAC, which is our Minto Youth Action Council. It's a group of youth who help us guide our way. And one of our young people said to us that they were being bullied at school. So grade 9, being bullied at school every day. And so they started coming over at lunch and they found their space and they felt safe there. And they created a group of peers. And they're now actually one of our leads of our MIAC committee. So that's pretty cool. And one last one, I promise. Okay, a young person had been attending the hub kind of sporadically. And after a lot of attempted conversation and engagement, we can kind of gauge, something's different, something's, off with this individual today. And they finally opened up to us and shared of some struggles at home, some challenges attending school. And as we gained that trust with the team, we were able to get them connected with some housing supports, some financial supports, mental health supports, and kept them moving forward. And this young person actually just obtained a job. It's very exciting. So we were able to help them get their SIN number because you need a bank account to get a job, all those pieces that go together to kind of move forward in that. So yeah, that's my little, keep it to 3. Come on, Jeff.
So we'll end here, but I just want to say one thing. I hope this council, this community is incredibly proud of what you created here. Across the province, there is no hub that is busier than the hub here in Palmerston, Ontario, right? Young people every single day benefit from the leadership and the vision and the chance that this community took on bringing this idea to this community here, right? There's still lots of work to do. There are lots of young people who need our support. But this idea of how you support a young person early in their life, provide access to supports, and an idea around intervention and prevention works. We see it every day. Our data tells us it works, and it's working here because of leadership here. So, Mayor Turton, I'm happy to turn it back to you and happy to take any questions from anybody here as well. Thank you very much for today.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. Tiffany, questions? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Anderson.
Questions and some comments. So I fully admit I was the first person who said I wasn't sure it was the right spot to put it where it was across from the high school. I didn't think the kids would go. I thought if they were having mental health problems, they wouldn't attend. I'm here to say I was wrong. They're clearly attending. I just have some questions. I work in the emergency department in Fergus, and I tell the youth that I get to meet, I don't always meet some of them because they're coming in through ambulance or whatever, but I talk to them about the hubs because they don't know. So my question is, how do we get that message out to people in the spots where they need it? Some of them, if they're coming in with their parents, they still have a relationship there. Usually that's not the case. By the time they're coming to us, their relationship with their parents are pretty much severed or damaged. They're sort of the last to know as the parents. If they've gone to their parents, they've gone through all their internal support systems. So where can we put the cards? Are there cards in the emergency departments? There's not in Groves that I'm aware of. So I just tell people about it and write down the address for them to look it up on the website.
Yeah, Deputy Mayor, there is lots to do around awareness, lots to do around outreach. Sort of, it's one of our key next steps here across the Grove. Like the places are busy, but there are a number of young people, many young people we're still not connected with. We truly are not. And so one of the things we're doing in the city of Guelph that we need to bring to the county as well is working with and so the city of Guelph, we're working with the emergency department around discharge for youth who come into the emergency department presented with mental health challenges, who are not being formed and heading to CADE, right? But are going to be discharged from the hospital. How do we get those supports to the young person, to their family? How do we do that in a way that, and so that is, sometimes that's through materials, sometimes that is through an incredibly warm handoff. The best way would be through a really incredibly warm handoff from the hospital to the us in the community, right? Whether that is us, maybe if it's somebody in crisis, maybe it's somebody from CMHA to support them as well, right? Who's the right agency to support them, right? So us, along with CMHA, are working in Guelph around this. I think we need to do the same thing here in the county as well, right? Around Groves, around Palmerston, in Palmerston Hospital as well, right? Yeah, I agree with you.
I think that would be a good first step.
I agree. I absolutely
Talk to the emergency, the manager of the emergency department, offer to come and meet with the staff. Staff meetings aren't always well attended, but most staff don't know anything about it either.
Yeah.
I'm just in a unique position, so I know about it, but people don't. They're not aware. And if you can just give that, I've spoken to several young people, and it's sort of, and their parents as well, if they were there, say, I didn't know this existed, and they get them in touch with it. Anything we can do to stop them from presenting here in the ambulance in a situation of crisis.
Yeah, you got it, absolutely.
So thank you for your work.
You're welcome, thank you.
Other questions? Councillor Elliott, go ahead.
I'll move my mic. Councillor Ron Elliott, and I live in Palmerston, and I'm by the Grove pretty well every day, and I look especially at noon hours, lined up to get in, and if they can't get in, they feel comfortable, I believe, about being around there because they sit on the cement around the place, and it's huge. It's great to see. Again, I agree with Deputy Mayor that I didn't think it would work either. I thought they'd be embarrassed to go in there because they had problems, but that's not the case.
Sure.
Now, the only thing about advertising, the only way I can see you getting more youth in there, you're going to have to make a bigger place.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I don't know how you can jam any more people that are surrounding the place. So you probably got 50 kids sitting outside the place waiting to get in. So I don't know how that's going to happen if you decide to move forward with that. Again, this is kind of on a negative, and I don't like dealing with negatives, but I'm sure you're going to have a few youth that are very difficult to deal with, and their goal is not to go in there to get any better or to help themselves. They're in there to cause problem and chaos. Do you sort those people out, or how do you deal with somebody that's getting physical or abusive?
Absolutely. I'll let Tiffany speak to that for sure.
Yeah, and great question. And I want to be really honest that, knock on everything wooden, that really hasn't been our situation as of yet.
Good.
The youth really seem to take ownership of the space, and for the most part will sort of keep each other in check. So if youth are in there who are causing a ruckus, other ones will be like, hey, you're gonna get me kicked out, get out of here. And they're sort of doing that themselves. Obviously, we're always about safety. So first and foremost is how do we keep everybody in this space safe? And if that's not a safe space for you, where is? And again, we've been really fortunate that our conversations, we're all NVCI trained, which is de-escalation. So how do we help these individuals de-escalate to find a safer space to be, or where else can they be in that space? So that's been our fortunate situation so far.
Obviously, you've taken care of it because they continue to keep coming back and feel safe and comfortable at your place.
Yeah.
And thanks again for doing what you do.
Oh, thank you.
Other questions? Go ahead, Councillor Dirksen.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. Thank you for your presentation today. I'm just wondering, you have 70 to 100 kids a day. How many staff do you have in Palmerston?
So we have 4 to 5 staff a day. We're really fortunate in the sense that our space allows easy visibility, so we can be sort of spread out and we don't need as many bodies to keep an eye, and everyone's sort of free flowing. So youth, we don't necessarily see 70 youth sitting in there at the same time. They're coming in one door and out the next, and then they're coming back in, and they're we have an Xbox room, we have the study room, they're sort of all out and about. So yeah, 4 to 5 is sort of our standard.
Thank you.
Councillor Gunson, go
Thanks,
ahead.
Mayor Turton. So I see it's for youth age 12 to 26. Do you find the average age in Palmerston
is like a high school average age versus the other hubs? Like the other hubs you see in more like 12 to 15, like, you know what I'm asking? Like you see that high school age group is probably prominent in Palmerston, right?
Absolutely,
Versus other
for sure.
ones.
The high school age group is what we see in Palmerston. Every site is slightly different. The site in Fergus sees a lot of middle school students, grade 7, grade 8, so we see in Fergus. The site at the University of Guelph sees a lot of young adults, university students at that site. The newest site in the north end of Guelph on Woolwich Street sees a real mix of young adults and youth. And that site is newer, so I don't think it's established its same sort of foothold. The site at Shelldale Family Gateway in the west end of Guelph sees a real mix of actually middle school and high school students in that space there. So it depends on the site, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Here in Palmerston, it is predominantly high school students. Absolutely.
So what we're doing here today is communication education. Okay, we asked you folks to come, and it is a wonderful thing. So a couple of questions. So we do have a good following of residents watching these videos. And so again, you guys giving lots of information is good for us. So I have a couple of questions. The relationship between you guys, and I'm talking the hub, and the teachers and the principal of the high school and the public school, I guess. Can you just comment on that, please?
Go ahead,
Second one is, when I moved from Palmerston to Guelph, you don't lose all my visits. You don't lose any of that stuff, right? And third one, hours of operation. And if you already answered these questions, I apologize. I might have been daydreaming. And as a parent, and I know my daughter is coming to the hub, and I kind of want to find out what's going on, and I know that you don't give out information. Can I call you and say, Tiffany?
Oh, you ask a good one.
Couple of questions, okay?
Yeah, are you good if I go? Okay. I'll start with that last one. So it is anonymous and it is confidential for youth. So we never want to hold information from parents. That's not what we're there to do. But our first conversation would be to say, little Jeff over here, your mom gave me a call and was wondering about things. Are you cool if I let her know what's happening here today? Because first and foremost, this is his space and this is for them. And I want to make sure he knows what I'm sharing. So, and to be fair with you, we haven't had a whole lot of resistance to that. Most of the time, we're like, yeah, sure, tell my parents, no big deal. So, but it's always about sort of there at the forefront of all of our care that we're doing, so that person is in charge of what's being shared for them. So hopefully that clarifies that one. Our hours of, do you want me to just keep moving on?
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
Our hours of operation, so for the summer, we switched it up a little bit because youth are home. So our drop-in hours are from 11 to 5, Monday to Thursday, and then 11 to 4 on Fridays. Through the school year, I think it will adjust again. We do a little bit later stuff. We're trying to hit up those grade schoolers, the grade 7 and 8s who are not able to pop over at lunch. And so we will look at sort of, we were open till 6, but what that looks like in the fall will be determined a little bit there.
Then the question between the south and the north.
Oh, south and north?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. You're absolutely right, Mayor Turton. It does not matter which site you come into. If you are receiving support in Palmerston and you move to Guelph, you only need to tell your story once. It's one of the really key aspects of the work that we're doing here. And it's not just between the Grove sites, between the Grove and our partners as well. So you think, Tiffany mentioned our work with Minto, Mapleton Family Health Team, and the access to primary care. Young person comes in, they connect with our team, maybe it's Smith & Mackenzie, they receive an intake, and they're going to see the nurse practitioner within the space. When they go to connect with Jody, they don't need to retell their full story again. Jody has access to the case notes and the files from the intake with Mackenzie. And these are two different agencies working together, right? And we've been able to work together from all the privacy pieces and all the to make it really seamless and easy for the service providers to work together and for the young person to access that, receive that care in a way that really doesn't feel like you've been transferred to somebody else. It feels like they're a part of the team. And for the most part, the youth don't even realize that there's a different agency that employs the nurse, right? This is, you've met with the Grove person who gets paid by one person or one agency, and you met with the nurse practitioner who gets paid by somebody else. The youth don't even realize that handoff has happened. So that's a really important part of integrated care for young people. Yeah. Thank you for that question.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, school
All
relationship.
right, school
yes.
relationship.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm really proud of this one, so I'm happy to talk about it. Over my time at the Grove, so I've been here for 2 years, we've seen a lot of change in our relationship, specifically with the high school, and we're slowly evolving with the public school as well in Palmerston. But as of this year, we really connected with the vice principal and the CYC and social work at Norwell, and we created a bit of a wraparound care for the youth that we support. We're constantly texting and emailing. You know, a youth is feeling unwell. Can they come over? I just saw this person. I'm unsure about them, and sort of going back and forth. So again, it creates that wraparound. So when the school needs to talk to us, we're able to have that conversation. And again, it revolves around the same conversation I said about it if a parent calls, right? So the school calls and I'm going to say to Jeff, hey, CYC's calling. They're worried about you. Are you cool if I let them know? Like, I'm going to let them know you're here. Are you good if I let them know you're safe? And so building that up so they see us as a partnership. So we're all part of that care for them as opposed to the school versus the Grove. So it's definitely come a long way.
Perfect. Any other questions? Hearing none, I want you guys to know how proud we are. As a group, we supported this a number of years ago, and you guys have really, came a long way. And you continue to do that. And I've always said that if you can help one person, you've done your job. But looking at your presentation, you've helped a lot. So on behalf of our group, thank you, and take our thanks back to your staff.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
So we have another delegation. Another warm, fuzzy part, eh, Bill? So we have Bill Elliott here today. We're going to talk about the strat plan for economic development. We've been working on this for quite some time. So Bill, the podium's yours.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Elliott. No relation to Ron Elliott.
That's lucky for you, maybe.
I see he comes from a different area of Scotland than I do. Anyway, he's got 2 T's on his name. And I'm with a consultancy called Sequence, which does strategy design and marketing work for economic development. We partnered with MGA and Associates, who are doing a number of other studies for the town, and we're specifically involved in the Economic Community Development Master Plan. So wow, what a segue. I cannot believe you couldn't have planned it any better to have this presentation from the Grove, because you can't get a better example of economic and community development than that organization there. I'll go a step further and say that driving up here today, I felt like I belonged in Minto. I come from small town Alberta, although I haven't been there for a number of years, but it really does my heart good to get back out into smaller communities like Minto and be pleasantly surprised every time I come here in terms of how progressive you are, and the Grove is just a perfect example of that. It touches a little bit on some of the things that we talked about in the economic and community master plan, really talking about this whole aspect of collaboration and how you work together, and it really takes a team and a community and those types of things. So I'm just going to go through with you very quickly today, because I think you've all received a copy of the report itself. But I'm going to go through sort of the process that we went through, and then sort of the meat and potatoes is sort of the action plans that we've done. And there's a lot of actions there, and so I don't anticipate that we'd be going through all those, but they're listed there, and we can talk about some if you'd like. So if we could go to the, oh, you're there already, sorry. So the stages were pretty standard, pretty simple. A project startup, went with Belinda and her team. Should I give Belinda more praise today, or have you heard enough already? I mean, the toughest part of this project was trying to stay one step ahead of her, because she was always one step ahead of me. And what a great team to work with. The second part was obviously to do our research and economic base analysis, which is what we call quantitative analysis. So we use a number of databases, StatScan, and the Ontario Ministry of Ag and Food. I think it's changed its name just recently, but I still call it OMAFRA. They have an agreement with another economic modeling agency. And so we go through that and take a look at socio-demographic information and population base and things like that, type of things that you would find in your community profile. And then we go into what we call the qualitative data, which is stakeholder consultation. And what we're looking to do there is we're looking to reach out to the community and all the members of the community in various, whether it be business, whether it be community organizations, whether it be associations, and both internally and externally. We talk to, external ministries, workforce planning board, and some of those other areas that are external to the community but are also involved with the community, and really take a look at it and say, well, here's what the data says, what's really happening on the ground. And sometimes the data doesn't tell you everything. There's some opportunities or some threats and things like that that you find. Then we provide sort of a key finding analysis report, and that's kind of like a SWOT analysis in that, but we really look at what are some of the key things that come out of this, out of these consultations and research analysis. One thing we also added was we took a look at how is economic and community development restructured in Minto. As we were going through the process and saw what was happening in terms of tasks, workflows, and those types of things, we said, hey, how does this compare to some communities around us? So we reached out to some surrounding communities that were of similar population size and in close geographic proximity, and took a look at how they dealt. And everybody was very giving in terms of back to the information in that, and we're going to share some of that with them. And then, of course, in the end, we're doing the final economic and community development master plan and this presentation to you. So one of the key things is to take a look at those economic sectors and what's really prevalent here, and in some cases, depending on where you're at, where there's maybe opportunity. So I don't think it's any surprise that we saw that manufacturing, agriculture, healthcare, small business and entrepreneurship, and then real estate and construction were sort of the main drivers of the economy here locally. And next slide. So once we did that, we say, well, what are the key pillars? What are the things that economic and community development should be looking at in terms of what can they have an impact on? And I run into this with communities all the time, because when you talk to residents and even businesses, you'll say, what are the biggest problems? What do you need to deal with in that? And so they start listing off things like inflation and housing, affordable housing and attainable housing, and healthcare and a number of those issues. And the problem with that is that it's not that those issues aren't important. It's what can you really affect in your local community? And if you can't affect that in your local community, what can you do in terms of whether it's advocacy or whether to be able to address some of those issues? Obviously, access to skilled labor and labor force is another area. So those are all the things. So we try and boil that down and say, we're not saying those things aren't important, but what's really important that you can have effect on here locally, and then what role can you play from an advocacy point of view to some of the bigger issues. And I must say, as far as Minto is concerned, you have been progressive in looking to address or addressing some of those issues that you would normally think would come with higher levels of government, whether that be at the county level, the provincial level, or the federal level. And the Grove is certainly one of those in terms of healthcare. So we took a look and we said, okay, so business retention and expansion are very important. Investment attraction is as well. We kind of put those together, but we kind of set them aside. I worked many years in foreign direct investment. It always shocked me that communities didn't have a good BRD program. The strongest pillar of an investment attraction program is to have a good BRD program. You want to know what's happening with businesses in your community before you go out and try and get new ones. It's also the old saying that it takes 10 times as much money to get a new customer as it does to take care of an existing one. The other are small business entrepreneurship and innovation. I would say to most communities that, wow, this has sort of become the hot topic in the last 5 years or so. But I know from doing work with Wellington County several years ago. You had this thing called Launch It a long time ago, so you've been actively involved in this area and know that that's important to your community in terms of moving forward. Newcomers is obviously a hot topic everywhere. Once again, talking about the progressive nature of this community, I was pleasantly surprised to see the history of newcomers in this community. But as we've gone through every reiteration of newcomers that are coming here, there's been different challenges. And how do we deal with that? And do senior levels of government understand the challenges they're putting on smaller communities where newcomers are settling, and what needs to be done to provide further supports? Marketing communications. So that's an area that we know is important. I always say that it's not good enough to do a good job. You got to let everybody know you're doing a good job. And when we talk about marketing communications, I think that marketing and communications has been pretty good internally in the town of Minto. Sometimes when we work in economic and community development, because we're involved with it every day, we just assume everybody knows everything and what's going on. So it's very important to build this collaboration and for everybody to really know what's going on internally, but also externally. You know, we talk about, you know, you didn't notice it, you noticed that tourism wasn't part of one of the pillars, because the thing that I hear all the time is that we're a drive-through community. But you have all these events, 93 last year, and they're fabulous events. And I know I come from the GTA, and I like nothing better to get out to small communities and partake in some of these small events. But if I don't know about them, it's very difficult. Got it? All right, and then the real estate market is important everywhere. Whether it be, and I mean, typically from an economic development perspective, we used to look at that mainly from a industrial, commercial, and investment point of view, and residential kind of took care of itself. But obviously, the whole issue of attainability and affordability is so important, and we really need to be progressive with that. Next slide, please. So we look to relate these pillars and action plans back to the town's strategic plan goals itself, which were outlined in the recent plan there. Manage your infrastructure, quality of life, strong private economy, inclusive community, and responsible government. And you'll see when we talk about some of the action plans, and if you've read it before, there's some overlap that takes place in some of those action plans, because we've pulled some things out of some of the corporate plan. So in these action plans, we really wanted to look at, so what is economic and community development's role? What is really their role in terms of what they do? It's easy to get sucked into a vortex and say, okay, well, let's just go talk to economic development because they got all the answers to everything, and we'll have them do that. So we tried to break that down and say, look, we really need to look what your role is, where you can have the biggest impact with the resources that you have. And do you lead, do you collaborate, do you facilitate, or do you advocate? Second thing is, how do we prioritize those actions? And we make suggestions. I want to make sure that you know that this is not our economic development, economic and community development plan. This is Minto's economic and community development plan. So we make these suggestions, we make recommendations, but in terms of implementation and taking a look at this, some of these things may switch, some of the timelines, because life changes. And any strategy plan should be a living document. Next thing is to identify those partners and what are their roles. And there are a multitude of partners. And so are those roles the roles that should be there? Are they being completed or lived up to? And so what are those true roles? And then how does economic community development fit into that? And then, of course, in the last two is performance metrics. How do we measure whether we're doing the right things? So, any questions on that part? questions for Bill?
No, you're doing a great job.
No?
Bill.
Okay.
Keep going, please.
So we're going to go into some of the actions. And as I say, so under business retention, expansion and investment attraction, we list 9. A lot of, some of the key things are ongoing, but obviously making sure that you have a strong business retention and expansion program. You do have one now. I think it could be a little bit more robust. And you can also have a BRNE program that possibly is a confidential one. And so there's some areas there. That's important to know what's going on. It's also, it fits in so much into your marketing and communications and other things as well. And we cross-reference that. Business succession is a big item that came up to us, and that's not surprising. Mr. Mayor, you and I are getting a little long in tooth, right?
Yep.
And so are a lot of other people. And so we come across so many small businesses that have no succession plan or have no idea of how to do that. Yet they've worked for 25, 30 years, whatever, to build these very successful businesses in our community. And they're a very, very important part of our community. And in many cases, maybe there's a real estate component, so they sell the business and really where they make the money is just off the real estate, but the business is gone, so you're losing the service or the product or whatever that's been involved there. So this business succession issue is really, really important. It's as important as our skilled workforce and what's going on there. So being able to find some solutions to that. And there are more and more people working in economic and community development, working on succession, business succession. Obviously, the feedback from your BRNE is going to feed into a whole bunch of areas, not the least of which is workforce development and training. It's going to provide some input on your planning and development process to eliminate red tape. I don't know. I'm an economic developer. I'm not a planner. But I heard something today that said there's no requirement for a site plan. But somebody says, well, we recommend there should be a site plan. Sounds like more red tape to me. I'm sorry, but that's just an observation from this meeting. Supply chain opportunities are obviously very important, especially what's happening, and you'll read in the report about what's happening with global trends and everything like that. And I don't have to tell you about conflict in the world and trade disruptions and things like that. But it certainly has had an effect on supply chains and continues to do so. And that can have opportunities for local support, local success. Obviously, to be able to clearly identify what the assets are here for an investment attraction, and you have many, and be able to share that with partners who are, looking to do investment attraction, whether that be the county, the province, the feds, whomever. Obviously, being able to use technology tools and keep things up to date on a regular basis, collaborate with the chamber and other business associations, and then the last, which also came from the strategic plan, explore municipal versus private industrial land development. So I went through that very much in detail. The next slide is a little bit shorter. Small business entrepreneurship and innovation. Obviously, we talked about Launch It and a lot of the things you've been doing there and have been very successful. This is almost like the Grove for business. So obviously, Launch It, Saugeen Connects, Chamber, all great partners. Keep on going with, and you see everything in here is ongoing because guess what? They've been doing a great job, and it's just continue doing that. And if anything new comes out, then adopt it. Next one, newcomers. Yeah, this is the one I can hardly read, let alone I don't know how you guys can. But so we're talking about some of the issues, and I think, this council knows what a lot of the issues are in terms of newcomers. English is a second language. How can you do that when you don't have maybe proper facilitation or financial or other resources here being addressed and being worked on as best as possible? But you can't just continue to take in newcomers and then have these issues. Obviously, within the last month, 2 months, Belinda, you ran a very successful incoming tour. Did you report to council the success of that? Not yet. Okay, I won't burn your fire, strike your powder there, but that's fantastic program. This is where she is 2 steps ahead of me. Part of my recommendation was an incoming tour, and one day we're talking and having one of our follow-up discussions. She says, "Oh yeah, I got this tour coming and everything." I go, "You beat me again." So, obviously, the support of real estate development is important. So enhancing newcomers, and you've got a newcomer program event coming this week, I believe, right? So that's great. That's really great. And then from the strategic plan, some more action items there. Work with Wellington County, set 7, to get after that English as a second language. And then the last one, I just want to mention here, there is a new program out that we looked at called Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenships Canada's new Rural Community Immigration Pilot Program. When we looked at that, it didn't appear that the town of Minto qualified for it, and probably you wouldn't want to look at doing something like that without collaboration with the county. But that, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's something to be, look at. And I would dare say that a known progressive community like Minto could have some influence in terms of maybe making some changes there. But there really needs to be more support from senior levels of government in regards to newcomers. Okay, marketing and communication. So this is an area that we did look at, and we're trying to look at the 2.5 person full-time equivalent complement for economic and community development. So we really looked at this and we said, look, how do we take a look at what's happening, what's going on, and how do we prioritize this? And how do we prioritize it into what's really important for economic and community development, what should be collaborative for economic and community development, and really what should be the community and the community organizations driving those things. So we really took a look at and reviewed the activities and those priorities and events, and really took a look at, what should ECD be doing there? And then how do we take a look at what the time allocation is and the marketing and communication tasks and that's involved with that. We talked about, there was some talk earlier about communication and that. We note that there's not an online newsletter that possibly there could be an opportunity for. That's one of those things you got to take a look at and say, well, what's the other communication that's going on? And, can an online newsletter supplement that, or is it just repeating some of that? Interesting thing from the Grove. Totally amazing that a healthcare organization is able to use electronic tools that cross boundaries, not only within their organization, but with other organizations. They got to be one of the few healthcare organizations in Canada that's able to do that. It's the most frustrating thing in the world. I'm sure we've all experienced it when we don't have our healthcare records, or all our healthcare providers, especially at my age, can't have access to them. So once again, even down to an economic and community development level, what are the technology tools that you can use? Businesses have been using them for a long time, but what are the technology tools that you can use and implement to make you more productive and more efficient? And certainly a couple that we mentioned in here is a simple thing called a CRM, which is a customer relationship marketing program. And really what it does is allows you to track all your connections with everyone. And then a marketing stack which really a marketing stack is a set of tools that you use in terms of whether you're using HubSpot or Instagram or Facebook or any of the other multitude of tools there, but they're technology tools that can be done. And they used to be expensive. They're not anymore. There's a real opportunity to take a look at a number of them out there and do it, and they will pay for themselves. The key is to get people to use them. Obviously, the website's important and landing pages where you need a yearly marketing plan to really sit down and say, okay, now that we've decided what it is we're going to do here, what's the marketing plan for the year and how do we allocate and do that? Identify marketing and investment readiness opportunities. And one of our recommendations or possible recommendations is, do you realign the role of communications within the CAO's department or some sort of reasonable approach to that? And obviously that would require a consultation with senior management and how that should happen. And then from the overall strategic plan, connect with employers to develop more real estate, promote agricultural and farm supply chain, and support the healthcare recruitment process, which is already being done on a couple of fronts. Real estate section. So this is interesting. Some economic development departments are heavily involved in real estate in some municipalities. Some aren't. Some it's building and planning that controls that, and economic development not so much. I think you've got a great collaboration here between building and planning and economic development in terms of real estate. But I see that economic development's role is more in terms of providing feedback, whether it be from BRE programs or whether it be from incoming real estate inquiries and those types of things, and then providing support to building and planning. So you're sort of the economic development is sort of the marketing side, and building and planning is sort of the technical guys. So obviously online is important, and that's ongoing. And you'll see a number of issues here that continue to be ongoing, and talking about infrastructure, new development, specific marketing for new investment. I think some of that has been done, but it's an education process with developers as well, as for them to understand why would the town and economic development want to assist them in doing marketing and promotion. The smart developers and realtors realize that economic development is their best friend because they've got all the data and information they need to be able to talk to prospective investors. Obviously, the Community Improvement Plan, Housing Affordability Committee, and the ability to promote a broader range in housing development and transitional residential zones all come from the strategic plan, which are, I believe, all good actions and good recommendations. So, final key recommendations: review and categorize those events and activities as core, secondary, and community. Those are the things that are taking up so much time in economic and community development now. So how do we look at that and really, really prioritize that? Develop some workflows relating to the new event and activity categories. Really work on the complete marketing and communications plan, both internal and external, and discuss the department structure the way it is now and what the resources are for that department right now and what needs to be changed, added to in terms of additional resources, whether that be human resources or financial. So that's a quick overview. I'm ready for questions.
Thank you, Bill. You've answered a lot of questions here today, but like you said, if you talk about Belinda is one of the people that stands up and says, it's not me, it's my team. And that's one thing that we have developed here. It's been here for quite some time, and here in Minto, we have a good team. And so that's a very nice comment that you gave, but questions for Bill? I mean, it's a great report. You've went over it very in depth. I know that the ECDEV group has talked about this. You were at the committee meeting level up at the Launchit, and this is something that we eat, breathe, sleep, We talk about it a lot, and we appreciate the work that you've done for us. And if there's no questions, what do we have to do?
So
Pass this?
through you, Mayor Turton, yes. Elizabeth Graham did attach a report, and there is a recommendation.
All right.
contained in that.
If there's no questions, Andy, is there anything you want to say? He didn't even talk about you.
Can I just say one thing? So
Yeah, go ahead.
So I have to say that this has been probably one of the most rewarding projects I've worked on. And I've worked on everything from a big reorganization of Toronto Global to, mid-sized cities, 500,000-600,000 down to smaller communities. And this has probably been one of the most rewarding ones that I've worked on. It was very rewarding in that it was, I shouldn't say surprising to me, but was enlightening to me how progressive this community is and how they're involved in all aspects. And I think they're a great beacon for other communities going forward.
Well, thank you, Bill. Appreciate those comments. So we have a recommendation moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives report ECDEV 2024-011 regarding the Town of Minto Economic and Community Development Master Plan, prepared by the Director Economic Community Development for information purposes. But further, that the Council of the Town of Minto officially endorses and adopts the Economic and Community Development Master Plan as presented. No questions? All in favor of the motion? Carried. Just want to thank you two gentlemen. It's been a privilege and a pleasure for us to work with you. And we certainly appreciate the nice comments. So thank you and have a lovely evening. So the next item on the agenda is public question period. And I just want to say something quickly here. As Mayor, the Mayor as Chair of the meeting has the duty to preserve order and maintain decorum throughout the meeting. Although Council strives to hear and be responsive to residents' concerns, in order to preserve order, maintain decorum, and comply with the town's procedural bylaw, I wish to caution any participants in question period that, number one, questions that use discourteous language will not be permitted. Questions that seek policies or bylaws outside of the town's jurisdiction, including policies or bylaws that might violate human rights legislation, will not be permitted. And anything that constitutes speeches or statements not in the form of a question will not be permitted. Repeat questions will not be permitted, including the repetition of questions from prior meetings, and all persons shall be limited to no more than 2 questions. Something similar to that I've read over the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm going to open up public question period. Anybody that wants to speak, please address the podium and state your name.
Mayor Turton, nice to see you again. My name is Michelle McDonald. I live at 340 Mary Street. I'm short, though. Okay. I was here in June 14th, and I expressed a few questions about bylaws, and I never really got an answer. So I came back again, and my partner talked to you on Friday and expressed some concerns, and you just happened to miss us. We left at 2 o'clock and to come here. I would like to know what you have found out since our conversation, and if anything is going to be done. I don't want to keep, like you said, repeating the question. So I'd like to know.
Yeah, so Michelle, thank you for coming in, and I appreciate your question. I know that it is a property standards issue, and we are looking into it. I talked to our people late last week, and it has not been forgotten about.
I hope not.
No, it hasn't.
It's lowering my property value by quite a bit.
Understood.
And it's also impacting the environment. I'm not a tree hugger, but I know a woodlot has been cut down.
Yep.
And I'm worried about environmental issues.
So, Michelle, you're aware that there has been people from the town out to look at it?
No, I am not.
Yes, there has been
Mhm.
numerous times. And so I can tell you that.
Are you talking about the property at the end of ours facing onto Main Street? Or are you talking about the property on the east side?
So can I get your help, Terry? Do you understand which one we're talking?
No.
Okay,
So the vacant parcel adjacent to yours, that's the one
On
that
the
we
east
need.
side, yeah,
Yes.
there's 2 lots. They're listed as residential.
That's correct. So yeah, our bylaw enforcement officer as well as our development technician have been out a couple of times.
They've never ever contacted me. They've never even been on my property to see what I see.
They spoke to you on, according to the notes in the file, on June 19th. They had reached out to you and spoke to you. Unfortunately, with bylaw complaints, once complaints submitted, we can't pass on any information in terms of what action we're taking in order to get it into compliance with the bylaw.
As far as I'm concerned, I have talked to nobody but Mayor Turton, and that was on Friday evening. The 2 people that were supposed to get back to me never did. They never came on my property, and I would assume they would have in order to get the complaint completely covered. There is issues on fence height as well.
So all that I can tell you is our bylaw enforcement officer is working on it, so it's not ignored. And that's really all from an investigation standpoint. That's all I really can tell you.
Okay. When will I know what's being done? Because as far as I see, every day, more and more is being covered by
So one thing with bylaw complaints, we bring the property within the parameters of the bylaw. What you may see as an issue with the property may not be covered under the bylaw. So once we take over, basically we do what we can within the parameters of the bylaw, and that's as far as we can go.
Okay, so the extension of the business then means that you're not collecting taxes on that as well.
So that formed part of the nature of your complaint, and that's what we're dealing with.
Mm-hmm. And you have no idea how long this is going to take?
I don't believe there's been an order put on the property to date. We do tend to work with the property owners to gain compliance. Again, this is part of the process that we do. I don't know timeframes.
Is there a stop work project on it?
Property standards bylaws don't have stop work projects on.
How do you get a stop work project started?
There is no process for that. There's orders to put on the property, but not a stop work order.
Thank you very much.
All right, Michelle, we'll, we understand the issue. We've had our people out to look, and hopefully we'll have something accomplished here quickly. I know that you've had patience, and we appreciate that. So, next question. Yeah, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mayor Turton and councilors. My name is Irene Dooley. I'm from Palmerston. I've been in Palmerston for 8 years, the last 8 years. Can I do a bit of a preamble to my question?
A quick one.
Okay. So on July 21st, 2022, in Wellington County, regarding the town of Minto receiving its first rainbow crosswalk by Mayor George Ridge, which it said in the article, a symbol of inclusion for the LGBTQ community. There was approval given for this to be done according to the press release. I believe it was the Wellington Advertiser. And it was approved as a pilot project. And there was a note in there that the $7,000 for the additional paint did not come out of taxpayers' dollars. So my question is, and this is regarding the crosswalk in Harrison.
Right.
The question is, how much is the baseline for the standard white pattern of a crosswalk in Minto Township? And since 2022, which is, I believe it's approximately 2 years now, I believe that was done in July of 2022. How much has the town of Minto paid to maintain that particular crosswalk? So those were my first questions.
So those are technical questions.
Yeah.
So I guess go ahead, if you don't mind. Greg? CIO Courtney?
Yes, through you, Mayor Turton. We'd have to come back to you and get those details. And if you leave your contact information.
Yes, you have my contact information.
Okay, then we can
yes.
look at those costs.
Yes.
Get back to you.
Okay, thank you. Now, my questions are involved with the petition that was submitted May 7th of this year, a petition with 900 plus residents from Minto that signed a petition to council. And on June 18th, which was our last meeting, I believe, Mayor Turton made the comment, and the petition, if people don't know, just to refresh your memory, that the petition.
No, let's move along to the
Okay.
question, please.
So Mayor Turton, you said that you would take the neutrality issues very seriously, but the fair solutions is that all families belong. So council cannot support a bylaw change for neutrality in public places. So at that time, I was here, and there was a lot of onlookers, to witness this, that a commemorative policy was passed so that the pride decorations would be taken down by the end of June, which they were done.
Correct.
So my position is, according to keeping crosswalks neutral, and to have that crosswalk being not a neutral for the last 2 years, and considering that a cost of at least $7,000 plus the initial white, the standard white lines, that this is a very costly issue to the taxpayers of Minto. And so I am actually asking, my second question is, I am asking on behalf of the 900 plus residents of Minto who are not included in this LGBTQ plus endeavor, that the town council seriously consider returning this crosswalk to its original neutral state. And I respectfully ask our elected town council to take this very seriously, because it has affected all of us for a very long time. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Irene. Appreciate it. So I'm going to ask our CAO, what can we do about this?
Thank you, Mayor Turton. Through you and to you and Mayor Turton and members of council, the neutrality bylaw and everything that's wrapped up in there has certainly been a topic of discussion over the last number of weeks. And to that point, it's consumed a lot of time and energy both at the staff level and council level, and at the public level, of course, as well. And so I felt like I needed to step in here and make a comment based on some further information I've gathered. This has obviously divided some areas of the community into what I would call an ideological storm. This debate had legal, financial, social, and reputational impacts to the community. So I've spoken at length with our lawyer, our representative of our insurance company, representatives of the Ministry of Municipal Housing, or Municipal Affairs and Housing. The common thought is that whatever the intent of the original petition was, a reasonable person can see that this topic has stormed into an ideological debate about the rights and freedoms of individuals and human rights in general on both sides. This has been cemented by the various delegations to council, letters, emails, phone calls, and even the recent yellow letter that was circulated by someone in the community through Canada Post. This topic, in the opinion of these professionals and myself, is that this no longer is within the jurisdiction of or authority of the municipal council. The original petition and any subsequent petitions do not compel council to act in any particular manner. The referendum provisions under the Municipal Elections Act are permissive only. A petition has no legal effect on any issue, no matter how many signatures are gathered. Additionally, the Municipal Elections Act states that a referendum question has to be within the jurisdiction of the municipal council. Regulating the use of municipal property that in doing so contravenes the Human Rights Code would not be acceptable and would certainly be challenged. Any financial costs or damages awarded through a court of law or tribunal would be borne by the taxpayer. So my professional advice to council to consider, and certainly it's up to you folks to consider this, is to stop this discussion immediately. No more questions, no more debate, no more discussion of any sort, and to ask council to help staff to look and move forward with the good and positive community work that is currently in process, specifically our recent strategic plan, the work that came through the Economic Development Master Plan, which we talked about today, and our future Parks and Recreation Master Plan. So if council or members of council engage on this topic any further for any reason, I'm going to be very pointed in saying it puts the corporation and members of council at risk. So I'm asking Mayor Turton and council, my professional advice is to stop this discussion. No more questions, no more delegations, no more correspondence related to this topic.
Okay. Thank you very much, CAO Furton. So through our procedural bylaw, we will take no further questions in reference to neutrality, referendum, and items in particular. Okay. So saying all that, do we need to vote on that?
You certainly may if you wish.
Okay,
Mayor
sorry,
Turton. Yep.
Clerk, so everybody understands what was just said?
Of the council for Town of Minto.
Okay, I would, just to make it legal, I entertain a mover and a seconder for us to go ahead with this and take no further questions in reference to neutrality and the referendum and discussions. Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Seconder, Councillor Dirksen. I really understand what we're moving here, what we're passing. Any questions? Then I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried unanimously. So do we have any other questions for question period in reference to what we just talked about?
Hi, my name is Lonnie Natchuk, and I do have a question. My question is, what exactly are you willing to do to have more community input? Because the way you have this set up right now,
You have delegations who come in and tickle your ears and tell you what you want to hear. And there is no way for the community to have any input on anything that's said. Because when you go away and you think about it, you have questions. Like for instance, about this concrete thing. So I have no opinion because I don't know enough information. However, there were questions that came up to me. For example, did anybody go around where this place is and in Hanover and ask the community around them? Has anybody had any health issues that's related to this? Nobody does this. I know when we lived in where we lived before, where we moved here, I started having trouble breathing. And I'd go to the hospital because I couldn't breathe. And they'd let me sit there all the time and say that it was all in my head. Except for what happened was 7 years down the road, everybody's in the hospital for the same problems. If you don't look into what's going on before you have an issue, you're always going to have a big issue. The way you have this set up, we don't get the information until after you've already pretty much passed it. And we don't get another chance to come back and ask questions. So what are you willing to do to give the community more input? Because when I was on committee for a museum, we had far more community input than what this council has. And it's rather disturbing.
Okay, thank you.
Well, what's the answer?
That's your question? Huh?
Yes, it's a question.
Our CAO, CAO Courtney, do you want to answer that?
Through Mayor Turton. The process for the Teeswater concrete.
This isn't about the Teeswater. This is about in general.
Well, we have had processes through the strategic plan process. We've had comment period through the cultural plan, the economic development plan.
We don't even know about these things until after the fact. Like this one, I didn't know about it until I got here. And you're only sending out the information to 400 people. All right, I live here in Hairston, not going to affect me. People in Palmerston, it could affect everybody. Because if there's going to be lung problems down the road and there's winds, how many people could it possibly affect? And I'm not saying it will. I'm just saying it could. So unless the community, because this is what this is supposed to be, a progressive community, unless we have say and get input, this isn't our community anymore. You guys don't get to make the rules. This is our community. We're the ones who pay you taxes. If everyone stopped paying their taxes, how far do you think you're going to get? Like, this is really quite disturbing.
Okay, Lonnie, we'll take that under advisement. We'll discuss it. And we have your name and number as well.
Yes, thank you.
Mayor Turton, can I just make a comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
So
Councillor
just so
Johnson.
everybody's aware, what we're reading here today, we received on Friday afternoon at the same time it goes on the website. So we don't get any inside information that you people aren't aware it's on the website.
So, Lonnie, please.
No, I'm just saying though. So the Teeswater concrete thing, for instance, we started reading that on Friday afternoon, right? That's when we get it as counselors. It's a public meeting. We learn about all this stuff at the same time that people in this room did. Okay? That's when we learned about all this. So a public meeting is about gathering information. So we get all our reports on Friday afternoon. The same way, if I was a resident, I could go online and read the same reports that we read on Friday afternoon. But I don't know how else we could get it to the community. How else would you recommend we get it to the community if they can't go online and read the reports?
But you don't have
It's the same information we get. So if you need more information, I guess you could come here and listen.
So, Lonnie, please,
Right?
this debate is over. We're on to the next question. Like I said, we'll get back to you. Next question. All right, seeing none, then we'll move on to, pardon me.
Good afternoon, Mayor Turton and Councillor. I have one question for you. What are you going
What's
to
your
do?
name, please, ma'am?
Laura Park. Okay?
Yep.
What are you going to do when the Pride Parade comes to to Palmerston and Harrison, and that they will be
Lori.
walking in our streets nude.
Laura, I'm going to cut you off, okay? Thank you.
I'm sorry, but that is my question.
Okay. Next question. All right. Thank you for that. We're moving along to correspondence. Okay, so we have 4 items. Recommendation moved by Councillor Potnovich, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that the council receives the correspondence as information. The number A there is Crime Stoppers, their annual newsletter. We've got some minutes from the Maitland Valley. Is there anything that we should know offhand there, Councillor Potnovich?
Maybe I'll just mention one thing, that they are doing some renovations to the offices there at the Maitland Valley offices and making them more accessible. So that's the only thing that they were undertaking in the minutes that you see here.
Okay, thank you. We've got a letter there from Lonnie Hollinger. I know we've had dialogue back and forth. And the County of Wellington official plan review, progress report number 11. We're all over that as well. So if there's nothing anybody wants to talk about in reference to these 4 pieces of correspondence, then I'll call the question. All in favor of that motion? It's carried. Thank you very much. So we're moving into the committee minutes for approval, and I'll ask our Dev and Planning Committee minutes from June 6th. I'll ask Belinda to enlighten us on these.
Thanks, Mayor Turton. So the committee, as Bill mentioned, met on June 6th, and the main part of the meeting was all about the economic development strategy and reviewing the draft plan and getting their feedback. And it was pretty much what you saw there with some minor tweaks. We have a great group of business owners, key topic experts on this committee who have helped guide this, as well as a lot of engagement, as Bill mentioned. So that was the highlight of most of this meeting. The committee reviewed the downtown minutes from Clifford Connects, Harrison Rising, and Olive Board Palmerston, who were all very busy preparing and hosting their summer events and beautification efforts. And I also want to thank C&M Seeds for hosting us before the meeting for our corporate call tour, always very enlightening. And then we went through all the variety of committee member updates, as you can see there, and wrapped up the meeting by ratifying the approval of the facade signage structural grants that had come to council previously. Any questions?
Questions for Belinda? Sure, it was a very interesting tour at CNMC, so I missed that. It was good. All right, thank you very much. Recommendation moved by Councillor Potnovich, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman, that the council receives the Economic Development and Planning Committee minutes of June 6, 2024 as information and approves any recommendations contained therein. No other questions? All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. And we'll move to the Cultural Roundtable minutes, and we'll ask Belinda to report them as well.
Yep, so this committee met on June 24th. They've only met once this year. They've been busy participating in the public open house, one-on-one consultations, etc., to feed into the cultural plan that's coming forward. The DEI committee did have several updates from April 10th, May 1st, and June 5th, highlighting our guest speakers around accessibility, food pantries, and Minto Safe Communities Committee. This Saturday at 10 a.m. I invite council members of the committee to join us as we unveil our food pantry. It's going to be at the Clifford Celebration Square. This project is kind of an additional supplement, as they spoke about previously, about food insecurity. This has been brought up at several of our meetings. We know there's great community food banks in our community run by volunteers, and that's obviously appreciated. This is a pantry that's open to anybody. If you have extra food that you would like to donate and put in the pantry box, and if others need it, they can grab it when they need it. Food banks you are only able to access once a month, so this allows people to access it on a more regular basis. and without the stigma attached of going to the food bank. So this is a pilot. We've never done something like this before, so I'm sure there'll be lessons learned. And we're excited to have worked with a local high school artist on the design and to unveil that. And then hosting our Truth and Reconciliation event in September. We had our Railway Museum Committee give updates on that program and the work that they're doing on fundraising for the caboose restoration. We had our Minto Pride Committee provide an update on that event that was well attended and well received, no issues. We had our cultural master plan update, as I mentioned, where we reviewed the 5 key pillars where we're at today and continuing to work on that throughout the summer. Gord provided a great recap on Spark, where we had 70 people from across our community, from across the province in our community for 3 days. Was well received. The Joint Culture Roundtable was a very successful event and looking forward to hosting another one of those next year. And the committee will begin planning for Culture Days, which is in September this summer. So those are the highlights from that meeting.
Okay, so we have a recommendation moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Dirksen. The council receives the Cultural Roundtable minutes of June 26, 2024 as information and approves any recommendations contained therein. Questions for Belinda? I know there's a lot of information there, Belinda, so thank you for that report. I'm going to call the question if there's no other questions. All in favor of that Cultural Roundtable report? That's carried. Thank you very much. Now we're going to move along to the next report, which is staff report on the Plan 2024-025, P7123. It's the Michael and Tracy Schouse property in Clifford at lot line adjustment. It's 41 Park Street. And I'll ask Sama to enlighten us on this, please.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. Consent application B71-23 for 21 Park Street West is under review by the County of Wellington's Land Division Committee. The proposal includes a lot line adjustment of 12 acres for parcel B and 2.45 acres for parcel C to merge with parcel A for future urban residential development. The several land were initially included in Clifford urban boundary due to modification to Official Plan Amendment 119. However, in October 2023, the province reversed this modification, removing the several lands from the urban boundary. In November 2023, municipalities were invited to provide feedback on potential changes to the official plan, which Minto's council supported. Bill 162 passed on May 16, 2024, reinstated these lands within the Clifford urban boundary. Consequently, the county's draft OPA 123 designated the lands from prime agricultural to residential. The lot line adjustment was previously deferred due to the uncertain status of OPA 119. Now that the lands are reinstated within the urban boundary, the applicant is proceeding with the application. The land designated as prime agricultural and core green land in official plan allows for lot line adjustments for technical reasons without adverse impact on agriculture. The proposed lot is zoned agricultural site-specific and natural environment, which permits agricultural uses but no new livestock facilities. As these additional lands are intended for a residential subdivision, council should anticipate the submission of an official plan amendment, a rezoning application, and a plan of subdivision application. Town staff recommends that the council approve the land division consent with the 2 conditions outlined in the report. If the council has any questions, I will be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you. Sama, questions on this particular issue? Well, we've seen this numerous times before, and this is a lot line adjustment to move this project along. So I'm going to read the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman. The Council of the Town of Minto hereby receives report Plan 2024-025, B71/23, Michael and Tracy Shows, prepared by the planning coordinator for the information purposes, and further that the Council of the Town of Minto recommends that the County of Wellington Land Division Committee approve consent application B7123, Michael and Tracy Shows, for land legally described as part lot 61 and 62, concession deed in the form Village of Clifford, also known as 41 Park Street West, Clifford, and that the following conditions be considered. And further that the Town of Minto files with the Secretary Treasurer of the Planning and the Land Division Committee a letter of clearance of this condition. Everyone okay with that? So, all in favor of that motion? It's carried, thank you. And then we'll pass the chair to Councillor Gunson.
Thanks, Mayor Turton. So Public Works, we got one report today. PW 2024-018 Municipal Drain 104 request for quotation results, and Ryan's going to submit the report.
Thank you, Councillor Gunson, and hello, Mayor Turton and Council. Council may recall receiving the engineer's report from RJ Burnside under Section 78 of the Drainage Act for an improvement of Municipal Drain 104 at the last council meeting. This minor improvement project was requested by one landowner wishing to relocate the existing drain to make room for his future farm expansions. The sole cost of this project will be borne on that single landowner, and including the engineering and the construction cost. Two bids were received during the request for quotation process for the construction contract, with both bids being very close. RJ Burnside and town staff are recommending that council award the contract to Robinson Farm Drainage as per the wishes of the landowner. That's all I have. Thanks, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Ryan. I'll read the recommendation. Moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, second by Councillor Podnowitz, that the Council of the Town of Minto hereby receives report PW 2024-018 regarding municipal drain number 104 request for quotation results, prepared by the Drainage Superintendent for information purposes, and further that the Council of the Town of Minto awards a contract to Robinson Farm Drainage Limited for the total price of $38,100 excluding HST. Any questions for Ryan? Mayor Turk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So basically what we're saying here, Ryan, is the landowner. We've chosen the higher quote, and the landowner is kind of responsible for that, and he's paying the difference.
Yes, exactly. He is paying the entire cost of the project, so we are just kind of echoing his wishes.
We have before done this in Minto where other landowners have made requests to have other contractors do their work that they're paying for.
Yes, this is a bit of a unique situation, being the only landowner involved, but to my knowledge, that is practice.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Sorry, Steve, you can.
Seeing none, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? It's passed. Thank you. I'm going to pass the chair to Deputy Mayor Anderson.
Councillor Johnson. And I'm going to pass it over to police to give the Fire 2024-05 Community Risk Assessment report.
Sorry. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Anderson. So as you may or may not know, legislation was passed, Regulation 378-18, requiring fire departments to complete a comprehensive community risk assessment, and that was due July 1st of this year. So we were able to complete our community risk assessment in-house, and the mandatory profiles come from the Office of the Fire Marshal as to how you need to analyze risk within your municipality. So there are 9 profiles, which are all outlined in the risk assessment. And in terms of, all of the risks are outlined at this point. However, this is an evergreen document, so it does need to be reviewed annually and updated
as new information comes available. I would say that in terms of maybe the top risks on our radar moving forward, the sustainability of the volunteer fire service moving forward is something that we will be keenly watching, as well as more densely intensification or more densely populated areas within the community, and just the aging population in terms of our demographics, because most of our seniors are staying in their houses longer. So that's another large risk in terms of our demographic profile. But in terms of the other risks, they're all outlined in the document. So if you have any questions, I will answer them, hopefully.
So I will just read the recommendation moved by Councillor Gunson and seconded by Councillor Podnovich, that the Council of the Town of Minto hereby receives report fire 2024-005 prepared by the Deputy Chief regarding the community risk assessment for information purposes. Are there any questions for colleagues? Mayor Turton?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So, Khalees, this is all done in-house by our own people.
Right, yeah. So
Just
other
wanted-
municipalities hired consultants, but our management team was able to produce this by ourselves.
And it has to do with our shared services, includes not just Minto, correct? Wellington North and Mapleton are all part of this?
Not the risk assessment. The risk assessment is specific to Minto.
Just for Minto?
Yes.
Yep, okay. And so when we do, or when the one is done for Wellington North and Mapleton, it'll be presented to their councils.
Right, yep.
Okay. Thank you very much and appreciate your hard work on this. I know you've got a team as well, and at least I hope you do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I would just like to also thank you for the hard work that's done and the important job that your committee and your team does for our community, keeping me safe. And I will ask the question then. All those in favor? And that's passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll pass the chair to Councillor Gertz.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Anderson. We have one report to consider on the finance agenda today, and it's regarding the municipal funding agreement, and I'll turn it over to Treasurer Duff to take us through that report, please.
Great. Thank you, Chair Dirksen. So this is, I know there's so many acronyms, the Canada Community Building Fund. This is formerly the federal gas tax rebates, so funding that we have had for many years. So how that works is, as you know, the federal government collects the tax from the consumer, and many years ago they decided to share a bit of it, but they enter into negotiations with each individual province and territory. And in Ontario, the Ontario government hands the administration of the policy to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, which is AMO. And the current agreement between Ontario and the federal government has run out, so they've renegotiated a new one. It covers 10 years, although the allocations are only for the next 5. Many things are similar. A couple of things are different. It's very flexible on the types of projects that you can use now. They still have the emphasis on reducing greenhouse gases or community betterment. Again, I'm a broken record on this, but you have to tie it into your asset management. So again, and as we've heard, both in our economic plan and other ones, housing affordability is a huge issue. Not a lot the municipalities can do, but they encourage us to prioritize projects that will help the infrastructure for housing and that too. There's several different things. If we were larger, and by larger I mean 30,000 or over, we'd have a separate housing needs assessment barrier to meet, but we don't have that, fortunately. We're also required this, well, the agreements in the package, it's about 16 different things. So again, agreeing to support and improve asset management, meet all the regulations, and be gender equal and inclusive and everything like that. So again, the 5 years of funding has been announced, and that's roughly $1.5 million coming to the town. Basically, gas tax and the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund. Those are only two guaranteed grants these days for our infrastructure projects. However, there are a few things that are left purposely vague, which is a good thing. You may recall, I think it was in 2018 and 19, we got that top up. So that was a really good thing, and I know our former mayor was very proud to be on FCM when he advocated for that. But they've left it so that if the government of the day wishes to add more to our allocation, they can do that quite easily within the terms of the agreement. So we're all in favor of that, and hope that'll happen. So anyway, this agreement just came out a few weeks ago, and they want it returned as soon as we can. So here's our July meeting, and I'm sure we can get it to them in time for our next payment. So anyway, take any
All right.
questions? Or?
Happy to comply with that, right?
Sure.
Okay, are there any questions? Okay, I'll read the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Zimmerman and seconded by Councillor Elliott that the Council of the Town of Minto hereby receives Report Finance 2024-10 Municipal Funding Agreement, or called CCBF, prepared by the Treasurer for information purposes, and further that the Council of the Town of Minto considers a bylaw in regular session authorizing the Mayor and Clerk to sign and execute an agreement between the Associations of Municipalities of Ontario and the Town of Minto. All in favor? Thank you, that carries. And thank you, Treasurer Duff, for taking us through that report. And it doesn't say so, but I'm going to turn the chair back to Mayor Turton.
Thank you, Councillor Dirksen. We're at the point in time here where we have announcements. Councillor Dirksen, are you interested in starting first, please?
I would love to. It's been pretty busy in Minto. Fireworks on July 1st at the Crossroads Life Church. Perfect weather, perfect venue. There were hundreds of people there. It was, they sang "O Canada," and as the closing strains of "O Canada" for the were sung, the fireworks started, and I gotta tell you, it was spine tingling. It really was. Like it was really, really, really well done. So excellent fireworks, and thanks to Community Life Church for providing that for our community. Coming up, there's a Clifford celebration in Clifford. How about that? On September 13th. Lots of activities for young and older people. Drew Barbecue on July the 14th. The place to be is in Drew between 5 and 7. They have their annual pork chop barbecue. I don't know whether there's any tickets left or not, but you can get them from any Drew board member. It does always sell out, so want to get on that. And at the end of the month, the Grey Wellington Theatre Guild Youth Program is presenting Steal the Rich. It's a play written by Megan Raftis, and it runs Friday and Saturday, July 26th and 27th at 7:30, and Sunday the 28th at 2 p.m. There are about 30 kids in that program, and you haven't really lived probably until you've tried to get 30 kids organized on a stage. I have nothing to do with it, but kudos to those who do. So that's a free program for our youth, and it's just really well ascribed to. So I hope I didn't take anybody else's little thunder there. Oh, I should have checked with you first. Oh, you have more. You should tell them more. Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead, Councillor
I'll tell you
Zimmerman.
more. So this Saturday, July 13th, is the Clifford's Carnival Celebration. It's running from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m., organized by the volunteers of Clifford Connects Committee. Fun for everyone, food trucks, DJ, makers market, numerous fun activities. Also that day from 8 till 2 is a community-wide yard sale. And the things taking place at Clifford Rotary Park at 10 a.m. is the official ribbon cutting, as Linda said, for the new food pantry. 10:30 is an official ribbon cutting at the Brown Cemetery. I think that's Brown Street.
Yep.
10 a.m. till 2 p.m. will be a newcomers reception for anyone that's moved to the Clifford area or even Minto area for that matter in the last year. It's your chance to come and meet your neighbors. And also included, since this is the 25th anniversary of Minto, and we're not having a big town-wide celebration, so there's going to be some cake to give away from 11 till 12 or whenever the cake runs out. And the first 90 people get a chance to get a balloon and a picture taken, and it should be fun.
Thank you.
I have nothing.
Councillor Elliott, go ahead.
I just want to say, since Khalees is here, I recently was at a presentation in Listowel to do with smoke alarms, and maybe she could fill us in and all how it happened and where she got to where it was going. It's pretty great thing that you've done. So go ahead.
Yes. Thanks for putting me on the spot, Ron. Yeah, so last Friday, we launched a PSA with Corey Connors on the importance of having working smoke alarms. So it's been pretty well received over the last week that it's been in action. It's been on social media, and currently it's playing on Whiteman TV with, it's going to be expanding in the next few weeks. So yeah.
It's if you get the chance, have a look. I guess you can bring it up on Facebook, and if you get the chance to look at it, it's quite good, quite professional and well done, and it's good sharing between the 3 communities, I guess.
Yeah, so there's 4 municipalities that partnered on the PSA. So Mapleton Fire, Wellington North Fire Service, Minto Fire, North Perth Fire Department. So we all came together to create the video. So if you have watched the PSA, it's North Perth and Minto fire trucks in the video responding to the house. So yeah, it was a neat project. And
they're having a professional golfer, Corey Connors. He's going to be on our Olympic team in Canada, and he lived in Palmerston for many years and moved to Listowel. I like to claim him as a Palmerston guy, but they don't like that much. But anyhow, it's a really good video. If you get the chance to look at it, take it in. And thanks, Khalees.
Councillor Potnevitz.
I have nothing.
Councillor Gunson.
I have nothing, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'd just like to say that tonight in Clifford at 6 p.m. is the Chamber of Commerce annual barbecue. And also, I'm surprised that Councillor Dirksen didn't talk about the Hairston Minto Ambassador competition on Friday night. Who Councillor Dirksen was the MC, and she did a remarkable job again, but she's had 20 years to, is it 20?
At least.
20 years to prepare. She does a great job, and we thank her for doing that. So we had some, it was a great event down at the arena here in Hairston, and looking forward to next month. They're having another Ambassador Junior Senior competition at the Palmerston Hall Fair Ambassador Evening. So this Friday, we're having our open house for the Hairston Lions Medical Center. I'm sure that our MP and our MPP will both be there, and there'll be a lot of dignitaries there to help open that facility. We have it staffed full, and it's a terrific situation in the town of Minto. And that's all I have. So we'll move along to the next part of our council meeting, which is bylaws. Okay, so we have moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Councillor Potnevitz, that the Committee of the Whole convene into regular council. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. Notices of motion. Anything under that heading? Okay. Resolution, moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that the Council of the Town of Minto ratifies the motions made in the Committee of the Whole. All in favor of that motion? It's carried. Thank you. Bylaws. Moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that bylaw 2024-033 be read a third time, passed in open council, sealed with the seal of the corporation. All in favor of that motion? It's carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Potnovich, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that bylaw 2024-037 be read a first, second, third time, passed in open council, sealed with the seal of the corporation. All in favor of that motion? Confirmatory, moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that bylaw 2024-038 to confirm the actions of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Minto respecting a meeting held July 9th, 24, be read a first, second, and third time and passed in open council, sealed with the seal of the corporation. All in favor of that motion? It's passed. Thank you. Adjournment, moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that the Council of the Town of Minto adjourns to meet again. Call of the mayor. All in favor of that motion? Thank you very much. That's passed. Thank you for our July council meeting. We'll meet again in August.